Good evening and welcome to Kickin' It. So glad that you can join us for another episode. Today I'm so excited to be kicking it with the two Sams. I am joined by Big Sam and Sam. Welcome, guys. How are you today?
Hello, how you doing?
How's it
Good,
going?
good. All right, so before we begin, I'm just going to give a quick rundown. So, Black Friday saw Iran whack Wales, while England and USA decided to share custody of James Corden as no one could get the winner. Qatar kicked out Senegal. No, I'm sorry, Qatar. Qatar kicked out while Senegal soars. Lewandowski finally gets his first World Cup goal and takes Poland top of the group, while Messi makes up for the mess of the previous loss to Saudi Arabia. France fly through as they ditch the Danes and leave them to fight it out with the Aussies and Tunisia. Costa Rica jump all over Japan's hopes, while Spain and Germany share the spoils and keep hope alive for the gutsy Germans. Croatia cruise past Canada, who are the second team to say bye-bye or au revoir. Again, this tournament does not disappoint as mighty Morocco upset the old Belgian geezers, and courageous Cameroon came back from 2 down to stun Serbia to a draw. Unfortunately, the Swiss could not hold off tournament favorites as Casemiro's beauty for brilliant Brazil, and then kudos to Kudus and the Black Stars in a thrilling 3-2 victory as they tried to sink Sun and South Korea. And finally, we don't talk about Bruno has been the current United track with his lack of productivity. However, today, his 2 shots were a shoo-in for the round of 16. So, guys, how have you found this World Cup so far? And first of all, congratulations, 0-0.
Graham, why don't you go first?
So the tournament so far in general, I think, has been pretty exciting, rather open, and fairly even, between everybody. In terms of our 0-0 with England, I for one, and I know Sam and I spoke, as we often do, during the day about, I feel like our midfield kind of bossed the play in that game. It was exciting to see. It's always fun taking on the old enemy, our cousins across the pond. But it was a shame we couldn't get a goal to seal a win. But a draw, share of the spoils is kind of fair, I guess.
Yeah, with the U.S. England match, sorry, I got to poke a little fun here, but I mean, you make it sound like USA were the massive underdogs. The last time I checked, England still hasn't beaten the United States in a World Cup match in the history of the World Cup. So I mean, we hung one on you. It might have been 1950, but we definitely hung one on you.
You are absolutely correct. You sure are. And there was no goalkeeping blunder this time.
Thank you, Robert Green.
That's right, exactly.
I tend to agree with Sam. I think while the possession was probably more based with England, I think the opportunities and the flow of the game really went more to the United States side. Now, to the greater picture of the World Cup as a whole, 0-0 in the first half seems to be the storyline ongoing in every single match. I think it's 16 now where the scoreline's been 0-0 at the half. A lot of late goals, a lot of bench goals, and I hate Qatar. That's about it.
No, it was an excellent game. And I just want to give you guys a heads up. I was not one of those arrogant English people who felt like we were going to go in there and thrash USA. First of all, anything can happen. This World Cup and many other games and seasons has, taught us that. But also, I'm still not convinced on Gareth Southgate and just, he's just very defensive tactics. And also, I think the USA has a great young team, and just like you said, their midfield did boss it, and Pulisic had an excellent game. I know all Chelsea fans were crying out, why don't we get to see this on Saturdays? But I'm sure he would have something to say about that as well. But yeah, no, it was a really, really, really tough game. And at some points, I honestly thought that USA were really going to win. I think we came out lucky not to lose that game.
Well, I mean, Lindsay, that's a great point. And that also shows to Sam's point, and kind of the one that I touched on briefly. The first substitute off the bench for England was Henderson.
Yeah.
It just needed a steady Eddie in the midfield to hold things down a bit, I think.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
you know, I think that really speaks to the, you know, and it is youthful exuberance that the United States have.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I think also for England in this match, right? You had already beaten Iran. You beat them 6-2 handedly. You have the goal differential, right? The point in this match, don't lose.
Yeah.
Do not lose. So if USA is kind of taking it to you, okay, let them. Maybe they make a mistake. Maybe you're able to counter. There was a few counters, not a ton, but a lot of it seemed to be the defense and the midfield just kind of holding the ball on your defensive half of the pitch and just kind of being like, okay, we're just going to hold it. We're going to control it. And what we're not going to do is screw this up. Right. Because I think they probably fancy their chances against Wales to get at least a draw, if not a victory. And also then, you know, Hennessy with the yellow means, you know, our favorite goalkeeper in the world, as we like to call him, Doug Ward, not Danny Ward, is going to be starting. And, you know, hey, he gave up, what, Sam, 2 goals in less than 20 minutes there?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, sounds about right.
So I think a little bit of it, too, also for England was don't overshow your hand. You don't have to win this.
Yeah.
And where, you know, where USA now sits, they have to win. It's like, you know, we're going to get on to their group and everything, but honestly, the odds favor Iran because all Iran's got to do is shut it down and not give up a goal.
Yeah.
They don't give up a goal, they advance.
Whew. Wow. Whew, that's crazy.
And in recent history, the U.S. is not good in win or go home games.
Right. Well, it's funny because, I mean, that's what your country is made of, right?
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Landed Donovan in Algeria. That's the last time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
now,
I mean, the ball pitch in Trinidad and Tobago to qualify for the last World Cup on the final day, remember, of qualifying. I mean, this young now than they did, but the last time they were faced with this situation, they fell short. So we'll see if that experience comes through.
Right. Now, guys, you know, I'm so sorry. I forgot to introduce your amazing podcast and group. I'm so, for our viewers, I'm so blessed to know Sam, because they have an incredible podcast, Drunken United, DU, and, you know, absolutely great pod. Big Sam supports Everton and other Sam supports Arsenal. And before we begin, let's just get the pro Arsenal agenda out of the way. Saka scored 2 goals.
Yes, he did.
Partey did well today. Jesus came off the bench. So, you know, but they have a great podcast and, you know, just looks at the Premier League and looks at all of the teams of the Premier League. They have a great knowledge of everything football related. So just really enjoy their insight and their point of view and just really their view of all teams and not just the top teams. So guys, I have a question for you, you know, having been football fans for so long and being Americans as well. So I was reading a lot of comments where some, you know, Americans, and first of all, I'm glad that Americans who don't normally watch the game are watching the game. And I can't remember the view, but I think it was the highest watch game in
20 million eyeballs.
Yes, that's right.
The most for a game for a proper football match in the United States ever. That beats, I believe it was the Italy-France final was the previous highest watched in the United States, but that beats anything the U.S. men have done, anything the U.S. ladies have done. It is the number one most watched match in the United States history.
And that's amazing right there. I mean, I had my pastor, who's also a chaplain commander, and he emailed me this morning talking trash. I mean, like, I had all kinds of emails and texts all day long from American people, which was great. I was in the mall in the morning and having banter with just American fans walking, down the street. But what would you say? So I read a lot of comments where unfortunately, the filthy casuals, they said, 0-0. This is why, people don't want to watch this sport. But yet, I mean, the game was amazing. So can you explain to people, just because it's 0-0, I mean, can you explain that, like, their point of view? And I know you guys have heard it time and time again. Oh, you need to, they were saying you need to play until somebody wins the game. So,
what I would say right off the jump is you can't play into the stereotypes of somebody's going to go, oh, soccer's boring. That is a person who probably didn't even watch the game first and foremost, and it's not the target audience you're trying to bring in, and you just have to block that out, because there will always, it does not matter. United States could go on and win this gosh-forsaken World Cup.
Yeah.
And there will still be people who will go, orange laces at the end of the game, which mom brought them. Like, it's going to be what happens.
Right.
So you have to kind of block that out. And then what you do is you find the inquisitive fan, which there are tons of people out there who are getting more and more into this sport. Yes. And particularly one of the great things that helps, and you've mentioned we're more of an EPL podcast, is this is a television program that has no time conflicts with your other sports.
Right.
It's 7, it's 10, it's 11 in the morning. Maybe there's a 12 or a 2 o'clock game that might compete with your NFL watching or your college football watching. But for the most part, this does not compete with anything.
Yeah.
And lots of Americans are getting up, they're watching these matches, and they're getting into not necessarily the big 6 clubs. They're finding stories. They're finding teams that kind of they relate to more. A lot of blue collar people out there are getting into more of those Northeast blue collar teams. And what you say is you have to be, as a fan, don't gatekeep for first and foremost, and answer the questions, even if it's a bad question. Explain it to them that they understand it as a good question, and understand that anybody that's talking to you about the sport, they just want to learn more about the sport. So be polite, give them, realize that there's genuine interest from them.
Yeah. No, that's a great answer. That's a really great answer. I like that.
I would also, depending on the depth of football knowledge of the person you're talking to, I would also recommend highlight videos on YouTube. Go have them watch Brentford and Liverpool 3-3 from last season. Go have them watch, some of those great Chelsea and Liverpool Champions League ties. The one at Stamford Bridge comes to mind. You don't have to have a winner to have an exciting game. Now, occasionally, Burnley will play Sheffield United, and you'll want to tear your eyes out. That happens. But
and
that
we
happens
will all feel dumber for
it. Yeah, but that happens in every sport, There's nothing worse than a 1-0 3-hit baseball game. There's boring games in every sport.
Yeah. Can it just be a 1-0 no-hitter and we can all be excited? But they got 3 hits. Damn it, why did we watch this?
Right, but a no-hitter is even an exciting pitching performance. I'm saying 2 hits for one team, 1 for the other team, and a 1-0 win. It's like, God, tear my eyes out. I can't watch this. I'd rather watch competitive knitting. It happens from time to time. And to the people, all the orange slices and they dive and this, that, the other, just watch 10 minutes of an NBA game of grown men trying to take a charge. They dive every single bloody time.
Last night in the Packers-Eagles game, we had they flat out said there was a player on the Packers defense who faked an injury so they could stop Philly from running a no huddle offense.
Wow.
So right, so
I'm sorry, that's
don't come
flopping.
to me.
It's
Exactly.
flopping.
So don't come with all these anti-soccer tropes. That's the only part of gatekeeping that I do is did you even give it a chance?
Yes.
And if the answer is no, then I've got nothing to say to you.
Yeah.
It's like I said, you just got to ignore those people, because those people are always going to exist. They're always going to talk about it, and that's you ignore that person, and then you find the person that does have genuine interest, and you let them know. You go, hey, look, like, come over here. I'll talk to you.
Yeah,
this is why you should enjoy it.
You know, check out the highlights from Newcastle City 3-3 from earlier this season. I mean,
that was a
you
match.
can't possibly Arsenal Real Madrid, if you want some pro Arsenal agenda. That's the game I attended. Was one of the best 0-0s at the old Highbury in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Woodwork was struck 3 times, some excellent saves. Both teams went after it, just nobody could find the back of the net. Arsenal went through on aggregate. 1-0 from that amazing Thierry Henry goal. It's just there's these examples of great draws all over the gaff. And people just aren't taking the time to find them. They only look at Burnley Sheffield United, that for some reason got the 12:30 kickoff in the U.S. last season, and it was shoot me.
Now, I would also say for everybody at home, if you're playing your DU football show bingo card, in the center, I went to Highbury to see Real Madrid and Arsenal draw. That's the center. Yeah. That's the freebie. You're not allowed to count that as one. He does that whenever he can.
Oh, you guys are so funny.
I'm really trying to not curse right now, Lindsay.
We're trying so hard not to curse.
You guys are doing an amazing job. I appreciate it. All right, so round 2. What have been some of your any favorite games, any exciting games that you've really enjoyed?
Sammy, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I think just for the sheer laughter of it, actually, you know what? That was the end of round 1. I'm sorry. Say the Portugal game was atrocious.
Oh, Portugal,
Ghana?
Yeah.
That was terrible, but that was the end of the first round.
Yeah.
Second round. I got to chew on that for a second, Sam. I'm sorry.
I got a few. Spain, Germany yesterday was 2 heavyweights throwing blows.
Yes.
That was just 2 big giant heavyweights, and maybe they only threw about 10 total punches, but all 5 of them were in the face.
Yeah.
Like, it was just brutal. And the coaches really masterfully lined up their teams and brought in the right subs at the right times. Just really great. Argentina, Mexico. Mexico did what Mexico loves to do. It's we'll nicely call it gamesmanship, aka cheating. And it's the thing. Well, it's the thing that makes them really a tough out. It also is the thing that makes us Americans despise them in CONCACAF, right? Like, every time they get up and walk away with the ball 10 yards and then drop it on the ground. But if somebody tries to walk away with the ball, they're whipping it out of their hands, or they stand right in front of the free kick. But the minute you stand in front of their free kick, they're yelling at the ref for 10 yards. And ultimately, Argentina figured a way to navigate itself through it. But it was a masterclass in S-housery. You know, like, we're just going to mess with you and see how you can handle it, especially considering you have the pressure to win and we don't, you know?
Yes.
And that's actually, Sam, what I was gonna choose there after I thought about it for a second.
Yeah.
Simply because, you know, the grizzly bear of World Cup universe, Guillermo Ochoa, who came out of hibernation at the start of the tournament, as he normally does, his 4 years of hibernation to save a penalty in the first round against arguably the best number 9 in the world in Lewandowski, to finally being beaten. I mean, if anything, if you ever needed something to settle the Ronaldo-Messi debate, Lionel Messi scored against Ochoa at a World Cup. He is hands down now the greatest player that has ever played the game, period, without question. Ronaldo's never done it, so, you know, piss off.
That's a good way to compare. And I like that you mentioned both, you know, Germany, Argentina, because I mean, it was they had to get points out of both of their respective games. It was get points or go home, you know, and that would have been that would have been
a couple other worth mentioning. Senegal beating the heck out of Qatar. Okay, great, Qatar, you got your goal. Now I hope Holland beats the hell out of them too. I have never actively rooted against the host nation. This World Cup, I've been actively rooting against the host nation. I want them to go out and be the worst World Cup team to ever play in a World Cup. I want them to be Derby County. That's what I want them to be.
Before or after Wayne Rooney?
Oh no! Back in the day when they have the record, only 10 points in the Prem, when they were 20th, the worst ever record of the Prem.
The 11-point season, but the problem is, Sam, is the owners have money in this case, so
that's true.
They won't go bust.
Holland Ecuador was a great draw. I tell you what, if I'm England, I don't want Ecuador to be in second place. I don't want to play Ecuador. I would rather play Holland. I don't want to play Ecuador.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point.
It was really good. Really good.
I think rounding out the second round too. I think today's Serbia game, the 3-3 was intense.
Cameroon.
That was wild.
That was the last match I had listed, was that one.
Yeah. And I don't know if you guys caught the Ghana game against South Korea, against Sam's best friend, who AKA is now posing as Batman.
Hey, he's an inspiration to the children. The children.
But yeah, that was a great game as well. Ghana went up 2-0, and then you thought they had it in the bag, and then South Korea came back, and then they got that third goal, and then had to hold on for dear life. So who was the English referee? I think it was Taylor, right? That was in that game, the English referee. He finally gave someone a red card, but it was the South Korean coach. It wasn't any player. I was like, I knew he couldn't go without giving somebody a red card. Awesome. So some great games. And I think the amazing thing as well, what is it? So only 2 teams have officially are officially through, right? Is it France and Brazil? So that means
Portugal with the 2
Portugal. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Portugal. So that means it is everything to play for in this final round of games. I'm trying to think, has it been like this in the past in the World Cup where, the final round has been so, just do or die? I know
not with 5 groups still up to be won.
Yeah,
not that close.
Not that I can remember now.
Yeah,
well, it's a greater look at the overall thing. The heavyweights aren't doing their job. Most of them are getting worked. Like every decent, like Holland's supposed to be pretty good, and it's looked pretty mediocre. England, clearly they were trying not to lose to the US, but they still should already be through.
Absolutely.
And then Argentina. What the hell is Argentina doing?
Yeah.
What the hell is Croatia and who's Belgium? Belgium could likely go out of the cup. Like you look at all of these groups, and there's so many groups. You're like, oh, nobody seems to actually want to play.
Yeah, it's crazy. But that means it's going to be some excellent games. So let's take a quick look. Let's have some predictions. We'll give Sammy some tips for his parlay.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna need some, please.
So Group A, Big Sam, you already mentioned Ecuador. So who do you have going through?
Starting at the start of this World Cup, and this was just before Mane had obviously picked up his nick,
Mm-hmm.
I really thought that Senegal was going to be a dark horse because they're the African champions. And even without Mane, they've played decent. That 2-0 loss to Holland, I think, is going to come back to haunt them because Ecuador's just got to come out, and just get a draw. And I'm going to say it's going to be Holland-Ecuador to advance.
Yeah.
Even though early on my thoughts would have definitely had been towards Senegal, but I think Holland makes very easy work of Qatar, and but that match, Ecuador-Senegal, is going to be fabulous to watch.
It's going to be amazing. It is, and I think some teams have had to play into the tournament as well. So you're right. Even though they don't have Mane, and that was a huge. I was so sad for him and for them. But yeah, that's going to be an excellent game. My head, of course, says Ecuador, but my heart says Senegal. So,
Yeah.
Sammy, do you have anything different?
Idrissa Gueye, for me, being an Evertonian, I want to see Senegal go through, but I think it's going to be Ecuador.
Yeah.
I think the best Senegal can really hope for in this game, because Ecuador works so very hard off the ball without their talisman and Mane. I think the best they can really hope for in this game is a draw, to be honest. And that's going to be really, telling. And obviously Ecuador will go through on goal difference there.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they'll go through on points now that I'm looking at the table again. But the I just, without the tip to the spear, I mean, there's a good spine throughout that team, but they're missing the one that's going to finish everything off, and it's a really unfortunate, piece that they lost just before the World Cup. Yes. I feel for them, because they were one of my dark horses as well. I completely echo that point.
Yeah. All right, Group B.
Go ahead,
Group B.
Graham, you go next. You go first this time.
Backs against the wall, do or die, US-Iran. I think we can do it.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see some pretty turgid play early in the game. But I think about midway through this first half, the U.S. will try to open up a bit and really take some stabs and break Iran down. Couple long-distance shots, maybe draw them out a little bit. Thing is, they got to be on target. If they're not on target, Iran's just going to get more and more compact.
Right.
We do have to be careful because they do have a couple of pacey wingers. We saw that when they hit Wales on the break a couple of times. And even England, those last the penalty that was drawn, and then the last goal were both sprung off counterattacks in that first round of fixtures. So I think the U.S. can do it. I think they're capable, but they have to stay focused. They have to stay organized. Let the creative players do their business, and Walker Zimmerman can't panic like he did against Wales, because our job should have already been done as well.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Now,
as a recent man with a ponytail, I think he should have his shaved off and start over for what he did against Wales.
Group B, England does not have to win.
No.
England, all they have to do is just get through. And even if they draw and the US beat Iran, they still probably win the group on goal differential. So right. England's just got to see it through. And like I said at the start of the show, I feel that the United States is the better side, but they're not the one in the driver's seat. Iran is. Yeah. And Iran before that 6-2 match, if you go back and you look at how they played teams, it was a bunch of 1-0 wins. They know how to hold people off. Now,
and Carlos Queiroz himself is one of the most boring coaches that's ever coached ever.
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, I do have to say, I believe that we will win.
Yes, I am there with you. Yes. And what's going on with Joe Reyna?
Good question.
He got some minutes here. I hope he puts them in to start this next match. Well, I mean, he's going to go way in Pulisic, but I would say I really hope he gets Reyna into this next match and gives him a lot of minutes, because I feel like when you have a team that packs it in, you need a guy that can have the ball in his foot and be creative. That's how you break down a team that packs it in. You have to create space by making those players who pack it in step and address you. So I think he's the perfect player for that match. Yeah.
Can you also send that memo to Gareth Southgate, please?
About the other piece to that. Piece to that too, with our formation, some of the players we have, I like our attacking talent. Now the U.S. has never had a truly prolific goal scorer, but I think Timothy Weah is pretty decent. Christian Pulisic is pretty decent. If you can find a formation that gets the wingbacks involved but doesn't leave you exposed to that counter, then just have like a 3-4-3, and just play two holding midfielders in that middle. Let the attacking five just do their thing.
Yeah.
So you guys go win us the game. Us 5 have got this back here.
Yeah.
I would also say with Southgate in the England match, I don't necessarily disagree with his move to bring on Grealish, because Grealish will get a foul.
Oh, yeah.
And he got a couple, and
He
got
did.
good free kicks for England. So
He
I
did.
got what it was he was doing. So everybody was like, oh, why not Foden? Why not Foden?
Yeah.
Why Grealish? I was like, oh, he kind of wanted to get some free kicks and see if he
Yeah.
could expose. Like, it made sense. It
And
didn't
especially-
work, but it made sense.
Yeah, and especially if you've got Trippier there as well, set piece, specialist. And no, I agree with you. I just wanted both Grealish and Foden to come on, and have them on a bit earlier. But no, you're right though. Grealish did what Grealish does, runs around, draws the fouls. So
And why does he stick so vehemently with teacher's pet Mason Mount?
oh, he's got it's not just Mason Mount, it's Sterling, it's Kane, it's Maguire. Now, granted, Maguire actually has done well this World Cup, and he seems to do better for England than he does United. But I don't know. I have a feel. Just my thing is, I'm like, when you want to do something and you think it's going to work, and you don't have that humility to say, well, let me change this because I think it's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to work. And it doesn't work, but you don't have the humility to change it. So I think he just has so much faith in them. That's just my, skewed view of things, but I feel like he just has so much faith in them. And, of course, Kane, Golden Boot winner last World Cup, but, yeah, he has players that he just loves. And that's it.
I mean, Kane and Sterling, as you say, I mean, they at least contribute, though.
Yeah.
Mason Mount we used to say this about Welsh Chesney at Arsenal a lot. His haircut, his demeanor, the way he speaks, everything about him looks like he's going to finish the game, get on a moped, and go to the library. There's no grittiness or cutting edge, or it's just very, very basic.
Yeah. I don't know. It baffles all the England fans, and especially when you have options. I would understand if you didn't have options, but you have options. So
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Group C. So who do you guys have got?
This is where if you were listening to the DU football show, you would hear both myself and my co-host, Mr. Graham, weave a beautiful tapestry of profanity, trying to understand exactly what the F this group is and who the F is going to win it. You tell everybody about our show, we should warn them. We like to use the F word a lot. So you look at, who are the tried and true teams, right? So I feel like it's going to be Mexico's going to figure out a way to win because, of course, they do. And Argentina's going to figure out a way to win because, of course, they do. Yeah. But it could be any combination. And I have full faith that Poland could put it on Argentina, or that the Saudis could put it on Mexico. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this group is the most that's up in the air for me. We had our picks for
I think we're losing you there
prior to the start of the tournament. But the way can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. Sorry. What I was saying is just that this was not one of our picks for the group of death prior to the tournament. But the way that these first 2 round of games has gone, this in here, and with
absolutely,
I mean, really, what it boils down to is how distracted are the Mexican players by Hervé Renard and his sexiness on the sidelines. Hervé Renard is gorgeous, and the Mexican players might be distracted.
All right. So for any of the dragging that you heard, allow me to translate what Sam just said. This is what Graham said. Me. Arsenal sometimes look at my hair. Me. Highbury Arsenal.
And we're still top of the league.
My goodness.
Did I cover that correctly?
This is so disrespectful.
All right, Group D. France, Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia.
Go ahead,
This
Mr.
one's
Graham.
also kind of difficult because the Aussies came through the last game unexpectedly getting that win.
Yes.
And I believe they close out with the Danes, don't they?
Yes,
They do to advance.
Denmark can't score a goal to save their lives. So as long as the Australians can stay organized, I think they have a very good chance of going through.
Yeah, because they will qualify even with a tie. If Tunisia draws or loses France. So you're right. I mean, it's looking good for Australia.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't think France takes their foot off the gas enough for Tunisia to do that either.
No, I think France wants to prove that they're legit and they want to obviously by advancing, they've already gotten the curse off their back of 7 of the last 8 World Cup winners have not advanced to the knockout stages of the World Cup typically. Yes. And looking at both teams evenly, at the end of the day, Denmark's just a better side. I think Denmark's just better organized. I mean, the bees are going to come through. Denmark's going to look great. I definitely think. I think ultimately, even though Australia is in the driver's seat, I feel like Denmark's the better side, and in these kind of matches, the better side finds a way to win.
Right. Yeah, we've seen that in this second round. So it's going to be another good set of games. How about Group E?
Spain obviously advance. I'd say besides France and Brazil, they have been the most impressive side. Mm-hmm. Again, they didn't need to beat Germany. They just needed to not lose to Germany.
Yeah.
And so you play a game differently when it's, in the group stages and you just don't want to lose. You play the game differently. And I think they might have played the game a little bit differently if they were if this was the third match against Germany. Yeah, they'd have probably really taken it to them, honestly.
Oh yeah, you're right.
But all that being said, I can't believe I'm saying this because the last World Cup, all Germany had to do was win, and South Korea wiped the floor with them. Remember them stealing the ball off of Neuer's foot because he forgot to be a keeper and wanted to be a striker at the end of the match. I can't help but think that ultimately Germany's going to figure out a way through, and Japan is going to be sitting there scratching their heads going, how the hell did we screw this up?
Yeah.
All we had to do was beat Costa Rica and we screwed it up.
Yeah. And if they lose, they're still going to be great sports and clean the stadium.
It's what they do.
That's exactly how they are.
Yeah.
The thing I'd worry about for Germany, would have worried about for Germany, is who's scoring their goals. More so than any other team, I think they're in transition in a key piece of the field. They don't really have an out-and-out striker that does their scoring. I mean, Gnabry's more a winger. Sané's more a winger.
The kid Fulcris got a goal.
One.
He got one. I say start him the next match, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that. But I think that's the positive part for Germany. But the reason why I don't think they'll go very far in the tournament. But the positive part is they're playing one of the worst teams in the tournament in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I do think they'll find a way, especially if Costa Rica turn up like they did against Spain in the first round.
Right.
If they're that disorganized,
we're losing you again.
Machine is going to come through and kill them. I mean,
and Sané looked good when he came on, and I think he was injured, right? That's why he didn't start the first game.
I think that's right.
Yeah. But yeah. So let's see if Germany can do it. And then Group F. Croatia,
go ahead, Mr. Graham.
Morocco, Belgium, and Canada.
Group F. Let's see. Oh, that's the one with the retirement home. I forgot. You would like to think that Belgium would be able to do it, but which is kind of stereotypical of the Belgians. Seems to be a lot of infighting amongst the players.
Right.
We all are Sam and I pay closer attention to Europe than most Americans do, so we do kind of have some history understanding the whole Flemish dilemma, which is the Dutch, German, and French-speaking communities not necessarily getting along and being very tribal within those communities, and that kind of translating to the national team as well in a lot of cases. They've looked stagnant in attack without Lukaku, and their defense, as we know, is walking around with walkers. It's just bad. But you had De Bruyne very publicly saying that the defense isn't running. And then was it Alderweireld or Vertonghen? One of the two of them came out and said, well, we've only scored one goal so far. So how old is our attack then? They're kind of just very publicly having another infight. So yeah. I don't know that I trust them, to be honest with you. I think it might finish how it stands with Croatia going through as group winners. And is it Morocco there going through a second place?
Yeah,
I agree 100%. It's sad because that is the one job Roberto Martinez has. Don't let them fight with each other. Manage the egos, and he is doing an epically horrible job of it. And I hate to say it, Belgium go out. Morocco wants it.
Yeah,
they're playing great.
They are.
I think Morocco and Croatia go through, and Belgium go out.
And this was before the press conference even happened after the second game. You saw his actions in the first round, just his body language. Kevin De Bruyne doesn't look like he wants to be there.
No.
Canada outplayed Belgium. Canada outplayed. They had 22 shots. Now, they couldn't put any in the net, but they had 22 gosh-forsaken shots.
Whew. Wow. Yeah.
If Lukaku's not fit, if he doesn't come back for this game, Belgium are done.
Yeah. And KDB just needs to pack his bags, go back home to Pep, and watch from the sidelines because the rest of the team are still going to be in the World Cup.
He should go golfing with Gareth Bale and try to calm down before he goes back to Sydney.
All right, Group G. Brazil, Switzerland, Cameroon, and Serbia.
All right, I guess this is my turn. Well, so it's Brazil definitely, it wins the group easily. Now you wonder, can Serbia beat the Swiss? They should. Serbia can score goals. Yet somehow, as always, in every World Cup, we're going to look at the knockout stages and go, what the actual F is Switzerland doing here?
Yeah.
Because they're always there every time.
Always. Such
boring. It is, their football is as neutral as their government stance, man. They are just, and yet somehow they'll be through.
The most exciting thing in Switzerland is Xhaka.
That should say something, shouldn't it?
Exactly.
It should tell you all you need to know.
But I'd love to see Mitro in the next round. We won't. It'll be Switzerland because that's apparently what we all deserve.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't really seen much of Switzerland yet this tournament. Is the European version of Ochoa, Jan Sumner, the goalkeeper, is he playing this tournament again?
Let me check and see.
Because he is, again, I don't even know his club team, but somehow
he's
always, told you, he's always there for Switzerland and always a steady Eddie. What Switzerland are very difficult to break down. I think despite them losing 1-0 to Brazil in the second round, I think they will be able to take a lot of positives from that about how to stifle Serbia. since they stifled the Samba boys so easily. And
And
all they need is one, right? All they need is one goal to get through, and somehow they always seem to find it.
right. And they've got, speaking about their defense, and they've got Pep's flavor of the month, the kanji, back there now. So
exactly. Dude, Switzerland's so interesting to me, just briefly, they do such a good job of integrating the other cultures, it seems. Because
and by interesting,
one of their players, I think last name is Vargas. No. What I'm saying, I'm talking off the pitch, where the problems that Belgium have, all the problems, I mean, how many times did even Germany, to an extent, we saw it with Mesut Ozil, we've seen it with Lukaku, the press in those countries, when I do well, I'm German, or when I do well, I'm Belgian. When I don't, I'm Congolese-born Belgian striker, Romelu Lukaku, or I'm Turkish-born German player, Mesut Ozil. That happened a lot in the French team.
Yeah.
We see it in just the French citizenry when, a person living with a permanent visa, we saw that kid that climbed the apartment building that rescued the 17-year-old that rescued the child from the burning apartment. He was presented with French citizenship for his accomplishments, like it's some sort of special thing. And until you do something great, you're not French, is the flip side to that coin.
Right.
I never hear that about Switzerland. Ever. And they just, off the pitch, they do such a good job of bringing their people together, it seems. And I wonder if that's what leads to their stability. Yes, it's boring, blah, 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 and that's fine. But they get results. I mean, they should have beat France in the Euros.
Right.
In that quarterfinal. They took them to extra time. And it was just the cream finally rose to the top, but I mean, they're in the middle of somewhat of a golden generation, if you ask me. I mean, they're always there, but they never particularly do well at tournaments.
Right. And that's a good point. I've never thought about it like that. And, they have the striker Embolo as well. You saw he didn't celebrate his goal against Cameroon, because obviously that's where his family are from. And I'm not sure if he was born there. I can't remember if he was born there and raised in Switzerland but again, no, that's a great point what you mentioned, because there are quite a few players. Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. And then lastly, Group H, and Ghana made it interesting today.
Take it away, Graham.
Yeah, they definitely did make it interesting, didn't they? I was hoping this would be a bit of an easier conversation, but now I don't know what to do anymore. I think we did a World Cup pool with our podcast and some of our listenership, and I think I had Ghana finishing either in third or last in the group solely based on their African Cup of Nations performance.
Right.
It seems like the team hasn't had time to gel. There's a lot of new faces in that Ghanaian side. On top of that, I mean, this is the problem for everybody, but especially those that are kind of at the beginning of a cycle with their national team, where it was a very truncated build up to the tournament. I mean, most of the top leagues in Europe, where a lot of these players play, were playing the week before the tournament started.
Yeah.
So normally you get 2-3 weeks off to train with your team. You have a couple of friendlies to really work out the kinks, and you see a lot of teams do. Ghana hasn't had many games together, and for them to be able to pull that performance out today was excellent from them. I think they have a chance. Who was it they play in their last game?
Uruguay.
Yeah.
And who looked terrible so far.
Yeah.
I mean, the front line looks like Belgium's back line with Cavani and Suarez, and Darwin Nunez is dumb as a doornail.
Yeah. And he was who got subbed out for Suarez today because he was completely didn't offer anything onto the match.
Nothing.
So obviously Portugal has gone through, and give it up to Bruno Fernandes. He's 2 goals, 2 assists in his first 2 matches.
Yes.
I mean, easily making a case for player of the tournament. Even though Ronaldo, you saw Ronaldo's vanity tried to take that goal away from Bruno. I saw the goal. I was like, didn't even touch his head. And he's running around like, look at me, CR7 up the greatest. like, you didn't score. Again, this would be a moment in where we would be using a lot of colorful language to express our feelings on Cristiano Ronaldo and him wanting to make it all about him, or pulling a Graham, as I like to say. Here's the thing. We are all rooting for Ghana. We all want the Black Stars to win. We desperately want them to win. And yet somehow Uruguay is going to Uruguay the best way they Uruguay and somehow get into the second round. And it's going to be on some cheap, dirty, again, colorful metaphors that I would use that Luis Suarez is going to do to make sure they win like 4-0 and like reverse all the goal differential and find themselves. It's unfortunate, but we all know the script and we all know how it's going to go. I'm actively rooting for Uruguay to lose, but we just know what's going to happen.
This is a replay of that game in the 2010 World Cup,
where Luis Suarez, our first time learning about cheating Luis Suarez, which on our show tonight, when Mr. Graham is in studio, we are going to go really in depth into that because the desk had some fun things to say about Luis Suarez, and I want to make a different point. But anyway,
I mean,
that's where Luis smacked it off the line.
To be fair to Luis Suarez, it was probably the save of the tournament. However, he's not the goalkeeper. Right? So now that also being said, I will caveat that. Yes, Luis Suarez is a cheater. However, Ghana were awarded a penalty, and they did play the last 5 minutes of extra time, a man up, as per the rules, and could not capitalize. They then had another chance in the penalty shootout and could not capitalize. So it's not like they were without their chances. However, they shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place, and I take and agree with that point. I think the good piece is Ghana has some demons to exercise about that moment, and I think that will come back, hopefully, to bite Uruguay in the butt, and Ghana will be focused, organized, and ready to take it to South America's retirement home of Uruguay.
And it looks like they might be carrying the mantle for Africa as well. So that puts that little bit on them too.
Well, sad for Samuel Eto'o to say, but remember he picked Cameroon to win the whole thing prior to the tournament's beginning, which is very funny.
Well, guys, thank you so much. It's been so awesome to hear from you. And I know it's been short, so we're definitely going to do this again, and definitely going to do this again during Premier League months. And we can't, as much as we're enjoying this, we can't wait to get back and see how things unfold there. But definitely enjoying this tournament. Before we end, who are your picks to win it? If you could say anyone at this point. I know it's still early stages, 2 games in.
God, I hate saying Brazil,
tough.
but Brazil looks really good. Like they look really good, and that's the team you love to hate. It's the Yankees, right? Like you never want to see them win, but they look real good, and they're deep, and they actually have a defense. They don't have one good keeper; they got 2 really good keepers. Like, I mean, they've had a cupcake of a group, but still, I'd have to put them at the top. I think Spain has looked sneaky good. I know you can't read too much into that Croatia win into that Costa Rica win, because Costa Rica is just god awful. I mean, they limped their way in. Panama should have been the team that advanced from CONCACAF. And you know what? The defending title holders, France, they look good.
They do.
So I'd love to say there's some dark horse, but there's not. Those are probably your 3 best teams.
Yeah.
I would tend to say you want to not necessarily limp your way through the group, but the best teams usually don't start playing their best football until the second half of the round of 16 or the quarterfinals. And
That's fair.
I think you're going to start seeing Argentina be a bit more Argentina-like. I think Brazil might be peaking too early. However, they are quite good. So they have every possibility of keeping it going. I do like the mindset of the South American clubs, right? Brazil always Samba boys. You always see them come in dancing. That Brazil down through Uruguay area of South America is known for their steak, especially, but meat in general production and delicacies. The Uruguayans, however, only brought about 1,000 pounds of meat, from what I heard. So it sounds like they were planning on going home a little early because Brazil and Argentina for their camps brought about 6,000 pounds of steak, from what I understand. So,
Wow.
but I think it is going to be, I think it is probably going to be either Argentina or Brazil, more than likely. The French might be thereabouts. I think they're a little soft in midfield at times. They miss N'Golo Kante, and yeah, against a good team. I mean, we saw it last time. Mbappe can get kind of marked out of the game to an extent. We saw it last tournament a bit in the Euros, and then you have potentially Benzema coming back now, I heard.
Yes.
So how does that throw off the dynamic? Because I mean, we saw in Russia, Giroud puts in the hard yards. Giroud, very attractively does his job,
Yeah, he's really easy to look at.
Yeah, so, I mean, that there happens. And France win the whole thing. They're just a more balanced side, in my opinion, when Giroud plays versus Benzema, who kind of detracts from Mbappe and Griezmann. And they just don't seem to have the right dynamic when he plays. So if he shows back up and Deschamps decides to bench Giroud, I think France could be looking at a bit of trouble going in. Also, I think Giroud is out to try to reclaim sexiest man in the world after, again, I said earlier, Hervé Renard is really showing up something serious on the sidelines for Saudi Arabia.
And you can't count out your country. Yes, they didn't look great against America, but they didn't need to. Again, that was a game they needed to not lose. Mission accomplished. If they do go into the second round and play a team like Ecuador and beat them convincingly, that might be just the right kind of push that they need to advance. My only concern there is that I put them head to head against France, and I think France is better. I put them head to head against Brazil, and I think Brazil is better. I put them head to head with Spain, and I think Spain's better.
Right.
But something to be said about a team that's been in the Euro final and the World Cup semifinal in the last two major tournaments, and the team is relatively unchanged. That team knows what they're doing. So, like Sam said, the kind of team that might turn it on when they get to the knockout stages.
You can also see with that point too, you can also see them like Ecuador, very similar to what happened with Colombia. You could see England getting to a penalty shootout and winning that penalty shootout. And that galvanizing the side again, because they don't have that monkey on their back anymore. And they're able to overcome South American opposition again. And, and that just kind of pulls the group together. You ride that momentum. They're also scoring goals from open play. And we didn't see that at the last World Cup. It was mostly free kicks and set plays.
And penalty,
And if it goes to penalties, even with his little arms, you got a stone cold killer on penalties with Pickford. Like the man knows how. I mean, for crying out loud, he saved the 5th penalty against Jorginho in a Euro final. Like, you want to talk about the highest of pressure ever. And that was to keep your team alive. And the man made the save. And he made one against Colombia. No, he made 2 against Colombia. The man knows how to save a penalty, and that's a lot of the reason why he's in the net.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Lindsay, you know what we should do? Actually, we should do a Kickin' It DU joint venture and open up a Nando's right outside the England yacht and inspire Jordan Pickford to greatness. That way,
Nando's.
you can get a cheeky Nando's. Exactly.
We'll play a little house music and we'll get the rave on, son.
Cheeky Nando's, that's right. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you guys so much. Please, can you tell my listeners how can they get in contact with you? How can they follow you? How can they listen to your pod?
Well, we'll do what we do on the show. I'm going to tell you all about the show, DU Football Show, wherever you get your podcast, any podcast platform you like, including things like YouTube. And of course, we'll be live tonight on Twitch and all the other platforms. And should somebody want to reach out to us, Mr. Graham, how do they go about doing it?
It's actually very easy. It's dufootballshow@gmail.com to get in touch via email, and at DU Football Show on all the social medias. All of the banter, though, happens in our closed Facebook group, Drunkards United FC. So once you like DU Football Show on Facebook, you'll receive an invite to the closed group. Just try to get involved. That's where all the memes get shared, all the bants happen. And we love to have everybody. And Lindsay, thanks so much for having us on.
Yes, thank you so much, Lindsay. It's like you said, we like to talk the entire prem. We're both in the liquor biz. We both like to talk a little bit about what we're drinking. And yes, we do drink excessively while we do the show because it's the only way we can bear each other. And Mr. Graham, we did it. We did it. We didn't say an F word. We didn't take the Lord's name in vain. We did it. Oh my God, we did it.
I'm so proud of you guys. Thank you guys so much.
I'm going to get out of the car and just scream the F word 4 times.